Man, now take that Bible and turn over to the Gospel of Luke. We're going to be in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15 today. And as you're turning there, I wonder, is there anybody here today that loves a good party? Come on. You like a good party. You like a good, hangout. And I'm really convinced there's two types of people in the world. There's those that go to parties and immediately look for the dance floor. And those that go to parties and find the couch in the corner and act like the punch bowl soured, right? And so we're kind of maybe in one of those camps. But if you like a good party, you're not alone, because Jesus enjoyed a good party. All throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus showing up time and time again at meals. He's at banquets, he's at tables and weddings and feasts. He's at cookouts with the tax collectors, dinners with the sinners. He's partying with people that the religious community did not approve of. You cannot read the Gospels and come to the conclusion that Jesus hated a good party. But man, Jesus, he loves a good party, because here's the thing about Jesus. He loves moments where grace and joy collide. He loves these moments that, in fact, his first miracle was at a party. It was at a wedding, and it was his miracle that kept the party going. But not everyone enjoyed those moments. Not everyone enjoyed or liked the music. Not everyone was happy that Jesus was sitting with sinners and inviting them to the table. In fact, this is the climate and the context, the scene, if you will, that we open with in Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 15, Jesus is enjoying a meal at the table. The religious leaders, they stood outside with their arms crossed, they're grumbling, and they asked this question: why is he eating with them? So in Luke 15, Jesus tells us three stories. And each of these three stories has a party thrown in their midst. Our story today is a story about a party that's thrown by a father. It's a story about a son who returned, who was lost, but is now found. We're going to look at what is commonly called the story of the prodigal son. But I want to bring your attention today to this, that this story is not just about a son that has gone away, it's also about another son. It's a story about a son who refused to come into the party. Because here's the truth. It's possible to be invited to the Father's table and still stand outside because resentment has ruined your appetite. I want to talk today really about the person that travels with all of us from time to time, the person of resentment in our life. I want to title my thoughts, Resentment at the Table. Resentment at the table. Let's pick up in verse 11 in chapter 15. To illustrate the point further, Jesus told the Pharisees this story. A man had two sons. The younger son told his father, I want my share of your estate now before you die. So the father agreed to divide his wealth between the sons. Now we know the story. The son, he goes away, he takes all the wealth, he parties it up, he lives this lavish life, he does everything he wants, and he squanders away every bit of his inheritance to the point that he finds himself serving the pigs and looks at the food and says, man, I think I could eat this. And then it kind of dawns on him and he goes, well, maybe I can go to my father's house and I can be a servant. And so he's going back to the father's house in hopes of being a servant. And he looks across the horizon and this old man runs out. His father runs out to meet him. And in verse 22, we pick up and it says, the father said to his servants, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals on his feet. Kill the calf we've been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast. For this son of mine was dead and has now returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. Notice this. So the party began. And oftentimes, when we hear this or we read this story, we stop right there. We stop at the beginning of the party. But I want us to see the story doesn't end there. It goes on. Verse 25 says, meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. When he returned home, he heard the music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. Your brother is back, he was told. Your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return. The older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him, and he replied, all these years I've slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing you told me to do. And in all that time, you never gave me even one young goat for a feast with my friends. Yet when the son of yours comes back after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf. His father said to him, look, dear son, you've always been by me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, but now he is found. See, the very first thing we learn about the older brother is not what he believes, not what he thinks, not what he even says, but rather where he is. He's outside. He's outside the house, outside the celebration, outside the joy, outside the table. Yeah. And notice, it wasn't the father who put him there, it was resentment. Because resentment, it doesn't show up as distance on the map, it shows up as distance in our heart. That we can show up, but yet still have resentment in us. We can be close to the table, but yet be far in our heart. You see, this son, he never left geographically, but emotionally, spiritually, and relationally, he's miles away. Because here's the reality, you can stay in the Father's house. You can serve in the Father's field. You can obey the Father's rules and still be far from the Father's heart. That this is what resentment does. Resentment pushes you away while convincing yourself you're right. Resentment pushes you away from other people and then making us feel self-righteous like we're in the right and they're in the wrong. Here's what resistance does if you're taking notes. Resistance creates distance. Verse 28 says the older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him. See, unresolved resentment creates distance. Resentment will keep you from enjoying the places joy and grace collide. And resentment, it builds up. It forms when celebration threatens your sense of fairness. It begins to build up when celebration threatens our sense of fairness. And notice the older brother, he hears the music. He sees the feast. He watches the servants running in excitement. He smells like the calf that's being cooked. And instead of joy rising within him, anger does. Why? Because resentment cannot rejoice in the good that happens to someone else. Resentment will always say, well, why them? Why not me? Why him? Why her? What about me? And the party offended the older brother's sense of fairness. See, resentment will always keep you standing outside a joy that God intended for you. See, it's easy for us to read this text and to read it in a way that the Father threw the party just for the Son, but the Father didn't throw a party to push the older brother away. He threw a party to bring the whole family together again. But resentment, it blinds you to the invitation. It convinces you that entering the Father's joy would mean acknowledging someone else's restoration and your own rejection. But notice this. Both sons are outside the house, and the Father goes to both. He sees the prodigal coming home, and he goes to the son. He sees that his older son is offended. He sees that he has resentment. And what does he do? He goes to him. One son, he runs away in rebellion. The other stays home and builds resentment. But the Father goes out to both. See, it was rebellion that took one son out of the house, but it was resentment that kept the other one from going into the house. But listen to me today. Grace reaches for both. Grace goes to both. That in the kingdom, there is no one too far from the grace of God. And like the Father stretched his hands to the prodigal, those same hands are stretched to the hearts of the resentful. The second point is this: resentment twists perception. Verse 29 says, "But the older brother replied, 'All these years I've slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing you told me to. And in all that time, you never gave me one young goat for a feast with my friends.'" See, the older brother, he's not just standing outside of the party. He's standing outside of reality. He's standing outside of how things actually are. And here's the thing about resentment. Resentment just doesn't harden your heart, it distorts your perspective. Resentment will turn sons into servants. Resentment will turn sons into servants. Notice the older brother's language. He says, "All these years I've slaved for you." Slaving? That's not what the Father was asking of the Son. The Father never asked the Son to be a slave. In fact, the Father responds in verse 31. He says, "My dear son." What the older brother's resentment did is the older brother's resentment reframes relationship as labor and love as obligation. And this is what happens when resentment takes root. Church becomes a duty. Serving becomes scorekeeping. Obedience becomes leverage. Faithfulness becomes fuel for bitterness. See, resentment will always cause you to forget who you are. The older brother had forgotten he's a son. The older brother had entered into the idea that he was a slave. Why? Because resentment built up self-righteousness in his heart. See, here's the thing. Resentment exaggerates what you've done. Resentment exaggerates what you've done. He says, "All these years I've slaved for you." In other words, I've carried this whole family. I've done everything right. I'm the one that deserves the recognition. And resentment will make your resume look much bigger than it actually is. It turns obedience into entitlement. I've been slaving for you. Why? I asked you to do it, and you said yes. It turns obedience into entitlement. See, here's the other thing. Resentment won't just exaggerate what you've done. Resentment minimizes what you have. He says this, you never gave me one young goat for a feast with my friends. Never. Not once. There was no joy in your life. There was no blessing. There was no provision. There was no food on the table. Really? The father gently corrects him and says, everything I have is yours. Everything. The older brother is living in abundance, but resentment makes abundance look absent. He's standing in an inheritance, but yet he's complaining about a goat. He's chewing on a gnat when he's an heir to the kingdom. The father just says, a goat. Everything I have is yours. Everything that's mine belongs to you. And the brother mistook the father's celebration as the father's rejection. Man, and this is the lie that resentment wishes to whisper into us, that if they're getting blessed, you must have been overlooked. But here's what the father says, you're always with me. All I have is yours. See, sometimes we get offended when someone on our street gets blessed, when we really should just be thankful that blessing's in the neighborhood. That if it's on my street, it might make it to my house. That if it's on my way, it might come my direction. See, resentment, it doesn't just close the door to joy, it clouds your vision. Because you can't celebrate what you can't see clearly. You'll never be able to celebrate the good things others do for you if all you see is what they don't do. If you get hung up, somebody walking by you without saying hello, you'll never see that when you went to throw something in the trash and it missed, they went and picked it up and put it in there for you. That if all you're focused on is what they haven't done, you will miss what they're actually doing. See, point number 3 is this, is that resentment blocks restoration. Resentment blocks restoration. Verse 32. Notice what the father says. We had to celebrate this happy day. Notice he doesn't say, I had to celebrate this happy day. He says, we had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, but now he is found. See, the older brother thinks the celebration is only about the prodigal, but the father knows the celebration is meant to restore a family. And here's the tragedy. The prodigal came home to his father, but the older brother will not come home to his brother. That what resentment does is it blocks restoration. Resentment, it doesn't just affect your heart. It fractures every relationship connected to you. You know what I think one of the biggest lies that the enemy tells really predominantly American Christians is this lie that all I need is me and Jesus. But the father didn't just need his younger brother or his younger son and his older son. He needed the brothers to be united again. And we can build walls and act like we're building boundaries. We can build walls And this idea, well, I'm just putting boundaries up in my life just so that they can't affect me, this or that. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying. We need healthy boundaries in life, but be careful that the foothold of a boundary doesn't build up resentment where it builds a wall between you and your brother or you and your sister. That what resentment does is it blocks restoration. Notice that the prodigal's restored to the father and to the brother. The prodigal isn't just restored to the father. The father doesn't say, this son of mine. He speaks to the older brother and he says, this brother of yours. What the father desires is to pull the family back together. That what the father's doing is he's not just healing the relationship with the prodigal. He's healing two relationships at once. He's restoring the son and repairing the sibling bond. But resentment won't allow the older brother to see the prodigal as his brother. Rather, what he does is he calls and he says, this son of yours. This son of yours. Because here's what resentment does. Resentment dehumanizes others. It turns them into objects we can avoid instead of seeing them as people in need of grace just like you and I. That what resentment does is it dehumanizes people. It turns families into categories. It turns my brother into someone else's problem. It turns a spouse into an enemy. It turns our kids into frustration. What resentment does is it dehumanizes them. Not seeing them for who God says they are. And only wanting to see ourselves how God sees us. The resentment, it refuses the healing God is trying to create. The father's throwing a party. Because there's something powerful that happens at a table. There's something powerful that happens. And we say, hey, pass the dressing. And we say, hey, you remember that time we were doing that? And laughter begins to fill the table. There's something powerful that happens at a table. It's where healing begins. That the Father's doing more than just trying to bring people in to the party. The Father's trying to bring everyone together. That the feast is the Father's way of saying, let the healing begin. But here's what resentment says. Not until I feel better first. Not until they pay me back. Not until I get what I deserve. You know, God's a God of justice. They're going to get what's coming to them. Sometimes our view of grace sounds more like karma than it does actual grace. Well, I'm going to preach on that. I'm thankful that I did not get what was coming to me. I'm thankful I don't believe in karma, that I get what I deserve. I'm thankful that I believe in grace, that I did not get what I deserve. Instead, I inherited what He deserved as He got on the cross what I deserve. See, if you can't rejoice in someone else's restoration, the reality is you have not accepted your own. That we've fallen victim into this I gotta earn my seat at the table. Or we fall victim of looking at all of, well, I've been faithful, I've been good, I've been doing all this stuff, and then we think that I earned it. When in reality, grace is a free gift from God. We've turned from being sons and daughters into being servants and slaves. But here's really where I want to hit home today. Because we can think having resentment to our brothers or sisters is all right because it's just me and Jesus. And here's how the devil works. Well, I can just see people over there. I'm going to run over here, make sure I don't have to say hello. I don't really like them. Oh, they're walking this way. I'm going to run this way. And we just avoid them. But here's what resentment's doing. It builds a wedge between you and your father. Resentment isn't just building a wedge between you and your brother and sister. It's building a wedge between you and your father. It's building a wedge between you and your Savior. Notice something subtle in the story. The older brother's issue isn't just with his brother. It's actually against the father. I've slaved for you. I did this for you. He's upset the father's gracious. He's offended at the father's generosity. He's angry the father doesn't distribute love based on performance. And if we aren't careful, resentment will actually become something we hold to God. Because resentment towards others almost always reveals resentment towards God. Well, God, it's not fair. God, I tried. God, I gave my all. God, I did this. God, I've paid my tithe. God, I've given the missions. And then somebody else gets the promotion at work. God, I've been faithful. I've been bringing home flowers to my wife. God, I've been serving my husband faithfully, but yet they still speak to me rudely. That resentment towards others is actually just a sign that we are holding resentment to God. Because resentment blocks the restoration God is offering to each of us. Maybe not be so quick to just come to the cross and receive the grace of a loving Father, and yet withhold it from others coming to that same cross. Because the same grace that was freely given to you has been freely given to others. But it doesn't stop there. Listen, the same grace that was freely given to you is meant to be extended, not just with you and Jesus, but to you and others. Let me close our eyes and bow our heads in this room. I want you to picture the scene that Jesus leaves us with. The music's playing, the lights are on, the table is set. A robe is on one son's shoulders, a ring on his finger. The scent of the fatted calf is filling the house, and joy is overflowing. And just a few steps away is a son standing outside, arms crossed, heart heavy, angry, hurt, unseen, uncelebrated. He's close enough to hear the party, but he's too wounded to join it. And the father, the same father who ran to the prodigal, is now standing on the porch pleading with the older brother, "My son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. Come inside." And this is the moment of the story where Luke sets down the pen. Jesus stops telling the story. He doesn't finish it. He leaves the ending open. Because I believe today the Spirit is asking us and telling us, you and I are the ones supposed to finish it. The resolution to the story is not, did the prodigal come home? We know that answer. The question to the story is, will the resentful brother come in?